Well, that was a bummer, ladies and gentlemen. The San Jose Sharks get bit by the Cobra in overtime. Sharks falling to the Ottawa Senators 2-1. Again, that was in overtime. I am Erik Landi, and I am joined by my cohort, Ian Reid. Also, joined by all of you fine people. If you want to be a part of the show, please go ahead and hit us up on the social. You can use the Teal Town USA Twitter account to tweet at us. You can find us on Instagram, the YouTube chat, of course, Facebook, SoundCloud, and the Reddits. And for all of the great content that we put out, always check out tealtownusa.com. Ian, I think we kind of don't really care what the outcome is, and why am I not on here? Well, there we go. I don't think we care at the outcome at this point, but what were your thoughts on the game, and where do you see the Sharks kind of going from here?
I mean, I don't know. I saw Kurz, and he was angry, and it was such a he was angry that the game. I didn't think it was a boring game. Like, it wasn't a good game. Don't get me wrong, right? Like, it wasn't. It was definitely not a good game. But I don't think it was boring. Like, the Sharks have been in far more boring games than this one. It was like a comedy of errors, this game. Like, it's the best way I can describe it. Like, it was just a comedy of errors from like start to finish, including the play that led to the overtime goal. And I mean, it was like watching a high-end AHL game.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best way to put it was was a high-end AHL game. I mean, both teams looked depleted. I mean, from Ottawa's standpoint, the talent depletion has been noted from, the last 2 years and in the subtractions that they've made. And in the Sharks, I mean, we can see the absence of Erik Karlsson and Tomas Hertl really affecting the team. I think also to where they have been in the standings and kind of what their fragile mental state is like right now also contributes to their issues. And, you don't like to see this from a process and development standpoint, because these are mistakes, and especially with the overtime goal and with how Ottawa scored in that first period. But it's building those foundations of good play. And when you see Brent Burns doing the starfish and taking his own man out of the play, you kind of sit there and you scratch your head like, this isn't good foundations.
Well, and here's the thing too, right? Because you're talking about like foundations and building up players and getting experience and stuff. And like, I don't think the true line played very much in the third period at all. Like, I understand, I guess you're trying to win or whatever, but like, what? I don't understand. Like, at this point, like, let the guys play, because you're not playing for anything. What are we playing for tonight? We're going to play because, oh God, we got to make sure the team that we play twice a year and won't meet in the playoffs unless it's the final gets a worse draft pick. Who gives a shit? Like, just play the kids, give them the reps, see what they've got. I mean, if you're not happy with what they've got, then make the line changes after the game. I don't understand at this point in the season why you're just going to start benching a bunch of guys just for what?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We've already discussed that right now the Sharks need to be developing talent, and really we're at the point of the year, and the Sharks are where they're at in the standings, and it dictates that they need to be playing their young players more. They need to have Alexander True taking important face-offs in the defensive and offensive zone. You need to have Dylan Gambrell stay on that top line, when in fact Dylan Gambrell played pretty well, in my opinion, on that first line. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's Bob Boughner trying to coach for his job, but at this point the mandate should come from the GM. Like, look, This team is going to be reliant upon these kids next year to fill in depth spots, and they need to get time on ice. Like you were saying, Alexander True, 8 minutes and 27 seconds in the game of ice time. Auntie Suomela, a guy who I've liked his game, and I think that he's progressing along, 9 minutes, 17 seconds. And then you look over in the defensive ledger, 31 minutes for Brent Burns against Ottawa, and you've got 62 points? Like, what is the point of that?
I don't know. And that's the thing, right? I mean, it's hard to get really upset about anything at this point, like overly, right? Like, I know some people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe they're bitching about ice time. Like, I'm not really that upset about it. It just puzzles me. It confuses me. Like, I'm not pissed off because, let's be honest, there's nothing to be pissed off about anymore. If we're still getting pissed off at this point in the season, knowing what's what, we come on here and we could yell and scream and do whatever, but it's pointless at this point. Like, I don't know. It makes no sense to me. Even if the let's say the cap goes up as much as they say it did, and I feel like we did this last year too. Remember last year how the cap was going to go up and, everyone was like riding the big high number that it was supposed to come in at, and then it wasn't the big high number. Right. And then it was like, oh, well, shit. Oh my God. Like, so, I mean, here's the thing, right? With the cap. So with all the players, because this next year was supposed to be, this season coming was supposed to be the big lockout. So a lot of players took a lot of money in signing bonus. So maybe they kick up the escalator a little bit to make the cap a little higher than we think it's going to come in at. But I mean, you're right. Like, I mean, you said it earlier. Like, yeah, the Sharks are going to be able to buy some reinforcements, but it's not going to be to the extent that I think, even if the cap's at its highest amount, it's not going to be at the amount people think it is. Like, you're still going to have to plug a few of these guys in next year. Maybe not 6 of them or 5 of them, but maybe 2.
No, and you're absolutely right insofar as you can get a few veteran upgrades, but again, you're going to be reliant upon depth. The depth of the organization, and right now Bob Boughner is not doing them any service by playing them this low. And I think that this is what I've been preaching since it was pretty evident that the team wasn't going anywhere, was process.
Mm-hmm.
And to see the coaching staff still play to this let's play to win kind of mentality.
You want to see them play to win. Like, you want to see, like, you want to hold guys accountable. The problem that I have is the players that get held accountable. There's an inconsistency problem. That's the problem, right? The players that for every time an Evander Kane has been benched, another guy who maybe doesn't make, is not one of the star players. Like, Evander Kane gets a shit ton of rope before he's benched. Timo Meier gets a ton of rope before before the bell tolls. Some of these other guys don't get that same rope, and that's the problem I have with it.
No, I see that, and I think for me the poster child of that definitely is Brent Burns. I mean, Brent Burns consistently makes these defensive mistakes and is not chastised for it. It doesn't reflect in his ice time further on, whether he gets stapled to the bench or not, and we don't see any kind of accountability, and I think that you want to send a message to your star players, then look no further than putting Brent Burns down for 5-10 minutes, bringing his ice time back in the line of like 20 minutes. You want to really send a message. To me, that's how you send that message. And I think it stems from Bob Boughner trying to play for a coaching job. I
sure
think.
It's got to be a factor. I mean, obviously he's the interim, right? I mean, he's coaching every game for his job. His job's not guaranteed next year, and it shouldn't be, in my opinion. But not because I don't like Bob Boughner. I just think that if you're the Sharks and you have an interim tag on a coach and you have the people that are out there, and even if and I'm not a super retread guy, and I've been on the record for saying this, but I still think if you're going into the summer and no one scoops up, a guy like Boudreaux, the Sharks should definitely make a phone call there. They're not beholden to Bob Boudreaux. So I mean, I think that everything should be on the table this summer as far as the Sharks go.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. So, shifting gears a little bit, kind of breaking down the game. Nick Paul scores 10 minutes, 33 seconds into the first period. Duclair and Hyreluk, with the assists there. And this is that defensive mistake that I was talking about a little bit earlier on where unfortunately Dylan Gambrell, it doesn't tie up the stick of Nick Paul in the slot, and he's got to have some more awareness that there is the puck coming down behind the net. You've got somebody parked out in the slot. You got to figure that puck's going to that player. And so
considering how many, it was it was a nice goal, it was a nice play. It was a really nice pass, considering how it looked like you had so many Sens trapped down low that it didn't really seem like looking obviously with the angle on the camera, right? You're not seeing how wide open that play is when the pass comes out, because it's kind of zoomed in on that play, but you figure you have everyone trapped down low, and just that sick pass, it was a slick pass. Duclair, I think, was the one that passed it out front, and just really nice play. Considering we talked about the game being a comedy of errors, but I thought the two goals on both sides, they were actually really nice plays that set them both up.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can look at it as one, getting that pass to Nick Paul that took a lot of skill. So maybe Gambrell is thinking, okay, I've got my body in front of him. Maybe that's enough. But I also think that it's a little self-inflicted as well. So I think that a good play was made and a mistake was made, and when you have those two things coincide together, it normally means there's going to be a goal.
Right.
when the team makes a mistake, the defensive team makes a mistake, and the offensive team makes a brilliant play, again, that I would say 9 times out of 10 that's in the back of the net. So the Sharks end up coming back and evening it up with Evander Kane's 25th goal on the season. I believe it's his 13th on the power play. Burns and Meyer with the assist there, and that one was just a seeing eye, bat out of midair for Evander Kane. And again, like you were saying, just a really good play in front of the net. Those are the kinds of goals that we like to see Evander score, because they're in the dirty areas. You've got a quick shot by Burns that kind of gets everything set up. So really, that's the way that the power play should be executing, because earlier on, the first 2 power plays that they had generated, what were they doing? It looked like Ottawa was playing keep away.
Yeah, it all went downhill from it was after these 2 goals, it all went downhill from there.
Yeah.
But no, the Evander Kane, the hand-eye coordination on that is going, it's wild. It's incredibly crazy how that play went in, and it's a good goal. And it's funny when you look back at the goals for this game, because the rest of the game was, like I said, there's a lot of just unforced errors and just players missing shots that they probably normally wouldn't miss. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, combined that both teams, we had over 21 giveaways in the entire game, so it was pretty sloppy. I mean, through the neutral zone, it looked like you had a lot of breakdowns of plays, a lot of giving the puck over. It just, both teams didn't really know what they wanted to do offensively, and it kind of progressed through the second and third periods. The Sharks had 8. Let me see here. 9 shots through the second period. Ottawa came through with 10 and really generated a lot at the back half of the second period. And then going into that third period, San Jose, I mean, they just let their foot off the gas. Only 5 shots on goal. Were basically under siege for the first 15 minutes. And then kind of had a couple of good looks in the latter 5 minutes. And then I think at the end, at the last 30 seconds, Ottawa kind of came in again. And that's also reflected on the shots, 13-5 in that third period. Really, the Sharks again, just kind of waned a little bit on the energy there.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. What did you think of Knizov, his game?
I actually liked Knizov's game. I think he showed some really good hand-eye coordination with that bat down on the blue line. I liked his willingness to shoot. He even called for the puck, a few different times, which is good to see a rookie, insert himself in the, or not insert himself, but really force himself to be part of the play. Involve himself kind of early, and I liked that from his game. To me, he kind of looks in the mold of a two-way type defenseman, where he's got a pretty good first pass. He's fairly good defensively.
Yeah, he's a little bit of an adventure in his own end. I mean, he's not. It's an interesting one when they called him up because he's got an interesting tool set. His skating is really good. Like I think his skating is probably his best attribute, and I think we saw that tonight. But yeah, I mean his offensive toolbox is a little bit limited. His defensive toolbox is okay. It's nothing. I don't think it's anything to write home about. But I thought, like you said, he seemed to settle in, and I thought he handled himself pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, for his first game, I don't think he made too many major gaffes. I mean, he had one penalty called against him. It was a hold in behind his own net, and it was borderline. I mean, I think the game was called. I think there were some questionable calls that went both ways. So, I think overall, I would give him a B- for his first game. It really didn't show me too much of like the high end of his skill set. So it'll be interesting to see if they continue using him. I think that's all going to be dependent upon Mario Ferraro and his health kind of going forward. And then kind of going into that overtime period, like we both said, the Sharks and Brent Burns, poster child for these risk it all types of maneuvers, and he risked it all, and he took his own man out of the play. I mean, Brent Burns giveth, Brent Burns taketh away. We continue about process, and we continue about accountability, and right now there's a clear disconnect between what players, where you are insofar as like hierarchy, and what kinds of accountability you're held to. And this inconsistency has been something that has permeated since the DeBoer era. It was something that we really took issue with during the DeBoer era, and it seems like Bob Boughner is continuing to, implement the same style. I haven't.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, I agree. There's a lot of meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah.
But I think that some of that's going to come from design too, because I mean you got to kind of. Like there's things that Boughner has done. Like there's definitely, you can see some stylistic changes in what they made, but I mean you're bringing in basically the same. Like you're bringing up the guys from the Barracuda. The Barracuda were basically, again, one thing about Roy Sommer I've always given him credit for is he can coach the minor league team to match the system of the major league team. And so I think the fact that things didn't change drastically, when considering you brought up Roy Sommer, you got Mike Ricci on the bench now. I mean, it wasn't like you didn't really go outside the box. That you kind of said, well, we need an NHL coaching staff, and this arena's kind of empty. So who's on the bill that we can put behind the bench?
Right. I mean, it's almost like change for the sake of change, and that's not necessarily a good thing. And I think going forward, like you alluded to, there needs to be an injection of new ideas into this team. I really feel like on both the coaching side and the developmental side, there needs to be fresh blood coming into this organization, because business as usual is not getting it done. You know,
Right.
we've talked about it from the coaching perspective of who is being accountable and who is getting the ice time. You know, giving Brent Burns at his age 31 minutes just does not
Some of the
seem
lineup, yeah. Yeah,
does
I
not
know.
seem like
I'm with you.
a recipe for success.
Um, all right. Anthony Sanchez. Okay, so there's a lot of coronavirus questions in the chat, and I'm just gonna hit this. I need to hit this so we can bat this down. Okay. So I know Anthony asking, will the threat of coronavirus have a negative impact on how Doug Wilson can try and sign free agents? I don't think so, because this isn't going to be, when it's all said and done, just a Bay Area problem. It's going to be a massive population center problem, because it's a world economy. People travel all the time, blah, blah, blah. So I don't think this is going to have any impact. A lot of people talking about things getting canceled, and look at the things that are getting canceled. I'm going to catch hell for this. And my Twitter, for all you people, once you're angry at me, is @IanBlogs Hockey on the Twitter machine. Come and get angry at me right now.
Here it comes.
Look at the events getting canceled though, and look at the ones that aren't. Division 3 basketball's getting canceled. You think March Madness is getting canceled? I don't think so.
Right.
Yes, the women's world's got canceled. Do you think the men's world might? But the Stanley Cup playoffs sure as hell aren't getting canceled. I think that here's the thing with this, and I'm not a doctor, and hell, I'm not even that smart of a guy, but I can tell you this much. If you, and this is just heart to heart from Ian to you, the listener, if you are concerned that you are susceptible or in a high danger group for this virus, don't wait for people to cancel big events. Put your big boy pants on or big girl pants on and don't go yourself, and make a decision for yourself. Don't wait for the Sharks to make your decision for you. If you think you shouldn't go to a Shark game because you're in a high danger group for getting this virus, then don't go. Don't go to these events and then go, oh crap, I got this stupid virus. If only they had shut these things down so I didn't get it. No, make decisions. Be an adult. I don't know. I understand there's a lot of fear and stuff over this, and I think some of this is overblown. And I speak as someone who is diabetic, which means that if I get this thing's going to kick my ass in.
Right.
But so I make decisions based on that, right? I don't know what's going to happen, and I feel like this seems to me, and again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know the figures. It seems overblown to me. It's with social media, these things get blown. I'm not saying out of proportion. Look, people are going to die from this thing, and that sucks. And I'm not trying to be insensitive to those people. All right, but again, you have to make decisions for yourself. Don't wait for people to make decisions for you. That's really my point. Because what are you going to do, right? So the thing is, I don't think nothing's going to get canceled, and I don't think it's going to have any effect on free agency, and it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, most population centers are going to have this issue. So whether you're in the Bay Area, whether you're in Toronto, whether you're in Montreal, it doesn't really matter. I mean, this issue is human to human contact, animal to human contact. It's here. It's going to happen. I mean, I'm in San Diego, for instance, and a guy who works at an AT&T wireless store went to work with the virus, was helping customers, and now his coworkers are now having to be quarantined. His coworkers have kids that go to preschool, so they have to be quarantined. I mean, look, it's just it's common sense, people. If you're not feeling good, don't tough it out. Keep yourself at home, get better. If you're high risk, I mean, so that's diabetics or people with renal diseases, people yeah, I know, ironic, but seriously, people who have issues with the kidneys need to be very, very careful. If you're older or if you're younger, again, you're in the high danger zone and need to take care of yourselves. So, like I've said, there's no need to overreact, but be vigilant. You know
Be
what I mean?
vigilant. Yeah, I'm not saying, like, am I saying bathe and sanitize? No, but wash your hands, do all the things that you would
Yeah,
normally do to not get sick. Like that's like I'm not saying this thing like this thing is going to kill people, and that is unfortunate. Like I'm not trying to downplay like the severity of the thing. I'm just saying, use your own common sense, be vigilant. Don't go to big public events if you get sick easy and then complain that they should have shut down the public event. That's just my opinion. Let's get off this topic now because we're
yeah,
way
and
off.
and insofar as what will happen events wise, just affecting the Sharks. I believe that if it does go a little bit more wider, I think what we're going to see is the game be close to the public, and I think they'll just play to empty arenas. We've seen that before in other
The
sporting
league
events.
didn't shut down when like the league got the mumps.
Right.
The league didn't shut down. Like H1N1, the league didn't shut down. It's not if there's money to be made, then money's going to be made.
Right.
That's the reality of it. It would have to get really. It would have to like if we get to the point where things are getting shut down and then things have already gone way off the rails,
Agreed.
like this podcast.
Yeah, I know. So, kind of going forward, then I think somebody brought up a really good segue point is free agents and like we were saying a little bit earlier, drafting and developing. Okay. So if you're Doug Wilson and you've got the grocery list going into the free agent period, Ian, what is your number one highest priority thing that you want to get done in this off season?
A goalie.
A goalie, okay. And
Yeah, it's still a goalie. I mean, you can't come back with the same goaltending, period. Can't do it. So chances are you're coming back with Martin Jones. And of late, that doesn't seem like a terrible idea. Martin Jones has had some really good games. But, for me, it's good. Martin Jones is going to have to do yeoman's work to rebuild trust that has been lost there, in my opinion. So you have to bring in a 1A, 1B guy.
yeah, I look at Jacob Markstrom, a guy who we'll see if he gets the open market. Vancouver seems to be pretty intent on re-signing him, but I think that there's also been some scuttlebutt that the two parties are kind of wide in the negotiations on where he kind of ranks and what his value is. And so he's a guy that I look at, but of course you're going to have Toronto be hot on the heels if you're hearing everything about no, not Anderson. Excuse me. Come on, Erik.
Well, they've got Jack Campbell now.
Campbell, and then who? Freddie Anderson.
Yeah, Freddie Anderson and
Yeah, I knew
Jack Campbell are their current goaltending tandem.
So, I mean, maybe there's a trade to be had there because there are some people saying that Freddie Anderson could be moved if anything like catastrophic happens in Leafland, whether that be missing the playoffs or having another bow out in the first round. So, I mean, maybe that there's a trade there. You take my problem, I take yours kind of deal. And that might be a good one to kind of circle around. Carolina, I think, is still kind of got issues there with the goaltending and what they want to do. I mean, Florida, the $10 million man that is, Sergei Bobrovsky is not living up to that contract either. So, there's no shortages of teams with goalie issues, and if the Sharks could somehow swing a deal where, again, it's a your problem for my problem kind of deal, I think that's kind of the first avenue I look at. Then kind of explore the free agent avenue because that the free agents are going to be expensive. So yeah, I agree with you on the goaltending there. You have to bring somebody new there. And so you can't keep both Dell and Jones.
No, because I feel like even like Dell of late is kind of returned to earth. I didn't think he had a bad game tonight, but he's come back down to earth a little bit after that hot run that he went on, and that's the problem, right?
947 save percentage, 35 of 37 saves. So I mean, if you're getting 947. save
Yeah.
percentage, not bad.
Yeah, no, but I mean, Jones has been like, and again, to his credit, Jones has been better of late too. But you can't come back with the same two guys, and like you've had like I understand that they've been better of late, and I've liked some of the things that I've seen from Jones. But again, it's like, I think a guy that you could look at who's having a really good season now, but still like, there's still, confidence issues there. You look at Jake Allen. Jake Allen's had a hell of a season, but because of the history, because of the baggage, you would never know it talking to some Blues fans. Like whenever anything goes wrong, it's like, oh my God, Jake Allen, he's fucking terrible. And, I think Martin Jones is, unfortunately, he's going to have that kind of road to come back from.
Yeah.
As far as like confidence in the fan confidence in him. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's some fans that don't remember what happened 2 weeks ago. And then I wish I could be like that.
No, I think you're totally right there. I think you've got to focus on doing something different. The status quo just won't cut it anymore. And so I think goaltending is a good place to start. I agree.
And then depth forwards.
Yeah, well, I was going to say even high-end right winger, right? Because right now the audition for right winger has been open all year, and nobody has grabbed that spot. You want Kevin Labanc to take
but you
it.
don't have the money to go. Like the problem is you don't have the cap space to go high end. You have to settle for good.
Right. Well,
you just need a guy who's good to kind of take a spot and just sit there, right? Like, because you're not going to get like you're not going to get like a top line right wing, at least to not have cap space left over. So you just got to find a guy who maybe gets a rub off of someone who gets the rub off of playing with a better player, and you get a little more out of them than you would normally.
Yeah, I agree. You got to find maybe somebody who's had a dip in their season this year. See if you can't bring them in via trade, or signing a depth guy or a guy that is, again, the market's a little soft on. I think you're right there. And then for me, I think number 3 in the check boxes is again addressing the scouting and development group. Because
I mean, off the ice, I think there's plenty to look into off the ice. I was just focusing on the ice. Off the ice, I haven't really changed my tune for off the ice. I still think that, we like, and here's the thing, right? Because after the trade deadline, I think Doug Wilson kind of built up a little more cachet, but I'm not impressed. I mean, we know he can trade.
Right.
It's everything else.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that is, I think on a good portion of the fan base's mind is just, has Doug Wilson's time kind of run out? Has he had too many chances, too many kicks at this can? And does somebody new with some fresh ideas need to come into this thing? I mean, it's a good point. It's not necessarily a wrong take. I think, like you said, anything is on the table at this point with just how bad the season is.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing. I think that's what you want. I think you just, if you're a Sharks fan, you want some honest, like, introspective look on this team this summer. But I just don't think you're going to get that, because I feel like, I feel like Hasselplattner, Doug Wilson still has Hasselplattner's ear, and he sure as hell has his wallet, thank God. So I mean, it is what it is, and I know some people are, and some people are resistant because you could do worse than Doug Wilson. I think you could probably do better, but you could also do worse, and I think that's another thing that sometimes the devil
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the devil versus the unexpected and the untapped. So, right now, as we're talking about cap space, we're at 81.5 mil. There had been some rumors and some scuttlebutt coming out of the GM's meetings that we're in store for an 83.9 cap going into next year. There was even some speculation on an $88 million cap, and I believe that included the players using their 5% escalator.
That would be the full escalator, which I don't see. I think I think they'll use more of the escalator, but they're going in like, you're still where they're going to go into a negotiation to do a CBA eventually, and this is one of their big sticking points. And you kind of lose a little bit of leverage when you use the whole damn thing and then cry about it.
Right.
Now, that being said, a lot of players are, again, I said this earlier in the show, I've said this on Twitter a lot. A lot of the players are getting a lot of money in signing bonuses next year because of the potential, because of the lockout.
Yeah, the
so
lockout
they wanted
protection.
the lockout protection.
Right.
Now, because of that money doesn't get hit by escrow. So if enough players have it, and they might vote against their own self-interest, but I have to think as a union, they're going to be like, okay, guys, you can use a little bit of it, but we're going to look really stupid if you vote for the whole thing and then try and go into a negotiation and fight to try and get rid of it.
Right. I tend to believe that we're going to kind of come in at the middle. I think, 2.5% to 3% escalator is kind of where I'm putting it at. And then as far as the HRR revenue increasing, I think we're seeing, I think we're seeing maybe a $1 to $2 million bump. So I'd say,
and here's the other thing too, though. And here's the other thing, and I know we weren't supposed to go back here, but if a bunch of people start getting sick and the gate gets really soft in the playoffs, that's gonna hurt.
Yeah, that will hurt.
That
HRR.
is going to hurt badly. Breaking no morning skate for tomorrow's game. I'm not really shocked by that. You lose the hour, or do you gain an hour? I don't know.
No, lose the hour.
Yeah, you lose the hour. You back to backs. Yeah, I'm not really shocked that there's no morning skate.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you there. It's not too surprising, and so we were talking a little bit on the cap there, and again, I think safe, realistic expectations should be about 84. I think
that's what I mean. Yeah, you hope for the best, but you got to plan for I'd plan for it being somewhat soft, and then if you get more, then great. It's found money at that point. I mean, it's all found money, but definitely, I mean, if you can get it up, as Sharks fans, we should be all crossing our fingers that it goes up to 88, because I think you can buy your way out of some of these problems that you have. And let's be honest, if you look at the division, like the points and everything, it's kind of, the Sharks could be right back in this next year.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think that there is. I think what we should be concerned with is having another soft season, right? I think like the group was saying, it's a good team that's had a bad year. And everybody decided to have really soft years all at the same time.
Everything went wrong, like death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah,
for sure.
And again, we talk about scheduling. That was against them. When you've got to play 3 straight games against Vegas to open up your season, having like we've said, the turnstile that was the preseason, where you had guys shuffling in and out and not really getting a lot of practice time and not getting a lot of reps. That screwed them up.
And no one, well, yeah. And then the other thing too is, I mean, you can talk about practice, you can talk about reps, but I mean, no one really grabbed the ring either.
Yeah. At the end of the day, none of the younger kids kind of stepped up for you. So,
yeah,
it was definitely Murphy's Law. Everything that could go wrong went wrong, basically. So I'd say next year, I think we should have some expectations for playoffs. But I don't see this as a division-winning team. I'd say that this.
No. This could, I'm not saying they're gonna bounce it back and win the Pacific next year. I'm just saying but I don't think, if you have half the things break right, if you get just league average goaltending for half the year, the first half of the season, by the time they started getting decent goaltending, well, then they stopped scoring, of course, because why not? Right. And it's just everything but by the time that happened, you started getting a good goaltending, but you were already you were out.
Right. No, I think what they're going to have to figure out going forward is, can you ride with these 2 wild horses on the back end with both Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson? Has that experiment played itself out and to the point where you can now kind of gather the data and understand, okay, does this experiment work or does it not work? You've got pretty massive commitments on that back end. I mean, we've all talked about it.
Oh yeah.
And so maybe this is the time to start exploring trading one of the big pieces on the back.
Well, I think if we're having the same conversation next season, I think everything, like, if we're having this conversation this time next year, I can't imagine them going into the offseason without absolutely everything on the table at that point.
Right. Right. I think nothing would be untouchable. So, it'll be interesting. I think going into the offseason, it'll definitely be interesting to see how Doug Wilson tackles the problem. As Sharks fans, I think you should temper your expectations on massive changes. Outside of a new coach, maybe outside of picking up a player, I think it's probably going to be status quo for the most part. You might see them bring in another goaltender. And I want to caution people to thinking that a lot of things can be done, because like AJ is saying, who takes Burns' contract, that, perfect point, or Vlasic.
For sure. There's a lot of, we could, we could do this. And I think we've done this too. There's a lot of things that have to, but again, just because everything's on the table doesn't mean that something's going to get done. But I just feel like, if you're in this spot next year, then
it's overdue. It's overdue.
You're in trouble now, because now it's no longer a blip in the radar. Now it's a trend, right? And you're trending the wrong direction as a team that wasn't really built to trend this direction this quickly. Like, we all knew, like, when these contracts were over, there was going to be pain. They weren't supposed to happen, 1, 2, 3 years into these contracts. That's the problem.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I don't think anybody saw that happening in the first year of Erik Karlsson's contract, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, and then, or the second year of Vlasic's, or, X number of Burns and X number of Couture's, and, all the, like, you sign these deals because, again, the goal was you were going to win early, and then you were going to deal with the pain, like, basically Chicago.
Yeah. Who takes Burns' contract and on his 3-team trade list? Right. I mean, Puck
That's the problem.
Yeah. Those things coalescing together, it's going to be really difficult. AJ saying DW is already all but guaranteed Marlowe and Thornton are back next season. Yeah. And
don't be started.
Yeah. Skylar saying at least we have a first-round draft pick. I mean, it's a glorified second. Again, Doug Wilson did do some good getting back into the first round. Although, the way that he spends his currency, it wouldn't surprise me if they're not picking there. Whether it's...
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me. And that goes back to the thing, right? Like, a lot of things can be true.
Right. I mean,
it's not black and white. Like, you can be upset at some things that Doug Wilson does, and you can still praise him for others. That's how these things work. It's not black and white. It's not he's a terrible GM or he's the best GM in the entire universe. Like, there's aspects of Doug Wilson's job that I truly admire, and he's done some things that I truly...
All right. Well, hopefully you guys are still seeing me. Unfortunately, these things happen, and as they do, well, then let me get the mic back on the form. There we go. Ian, let me get you on here and fix this up. The magic of the program we use. It's an amazing program for sure. So there we go. All right. I don't know why it's so low, but hey, we make it happen. All right, let's see here. Ian, are you around? I was going to get Ian back on here. All right, Ian, let me get you logged back in here. I don't know what happened to you guys, but... Oh, no. Yeah, well, and of course, I love how I get blamed for it, but, it is what it is. Yeah. All right, let me make sure you... I am live right now. I'm trying to make sure you get on here and see if we can get you on. If not, well, maybe we'll just wrap this bad boy up. But you guys are, yeah. Yeah, let's just end it and go to Discord. Yeah, I think that's what we'll end up doing. So that'll do it for us. In case you missed anything or you want to watch this again, boy howdy, check us out on tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, you name it. Oh, there now you finally jumped on. We'll be back with you following the tomorrow night between Colorado and San Jose. That's a 7:00 start on NBCSN. So we will be your only post-game show that night. So until tomorrow, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. We'll see you then. And don't forget, Puck Knowledge is also tomorrow as well. Have a great night, everyone. Jump on over to Discord.
Meh.
Meh.